Girls of Reddit, what made you go from maybe I would date him to no way I would date him? He told me he was excited about the possibility of a relationship with me and couldn't wait to delete our individual FB profiles and create a joint couples one. No. Hell no. I was a single mom talking to who I thought was a great guy. Then he dropped I don't think I could raise someone else's child. Which I understood. Followed by do you think your parents would adopt him? My son? Hold up, what the? No. I understand not being comfortable with raising a child that's not your own, but suggesting I'll just give him up for you? He told me he was in love with me the second time we hung out. Not to mention he used to call me in a fit of rage, sobbing profusely when his mother would cook him something he didn't fancy for dinner. Yeah, safe to say, that fling went nowhere. Finally a thread for me. After flirting with me for weeks, he saw a picture of my sister and told me she was gorgeous and much prettier than me. He's still kind of flirting with me after that. In all honesty, she is prettier than me, always has been, and I knew he would think it, but I never expected him to say it to my face. When I was 19 I had a part-time job. A guy I worked with was kinda cute. We'd hang out after work and play rock band, etc. He was nice. I thought we might kinda hit it off. Then one day he started telling me about how the Bush family and the royal family in England are all actually a race of lizard people and part of some giant conspiracy against humanity. So, yeah, I couldn't. I met a guy at a concert and he seemed really laid back and funny at first, so I agreed to go on a date a few days later. I soon found out he had a serious one-upping issue. If he asked about my workday and I said it was really stressful, he'd say, oh, I'm sure it wasn't as bad as my day. Or if I said I think I overspent while clothes shopping, he'd say I paid $1,600 for new golf shirts today. I'm sure you didn't spend that. This went on about even the tiniest little things. The last straw was when I said I loved Frozen and I'd probably seen it a million times. He said in all seriousness, oh, I've seen it 1,000,001. After 4 dates I realized I absolutely cannot put up with someone constantly trying to outdo whatever I said. He was constantly correcting people's grammar to the point of absurdity. I was talking about one of my favorite board games and accidentally said Cosmic Encounters instead of Cosmic Encounter. He thought that one S was worth interrupting the conversation for, so he could correct me. I suddenly realized if I dated him, I would basically dating Sheldon. Oh man, I think I'm late to this, but I'm super freckly, and halfway through our first date beer, he started in about how freckled women ought to be flayed, how hideous freckles are, and he wouldn't shut up, on and on about how ugly freckles are. So I paid my tab, thanked him for his time, and he started to full out sob, gasping for air, sobbing about how he thought I was perfect for him, and how sorry he was. Before our first date, texted me and told me that he told his mom he met someone. Yeah, okay. During our first date, spoke non-stop about how smart/awesome/compassionate/etc he is. When I told him I volunteered for an animal rescue, his response was a disgusted look and, oh, you're bringing stray to your home. After seeing that I was visibly pissed by that remark, he proceeded to tell me how he really liked dogs, used to have a dog when he worked in Africa, took really good care of it, even take time off to take the dog to the vet, but unfortunately had to tie it in the yard when he had to escape in the night, but he made sure to leave it with some water, and about how he would really like to adopt a sick/disabled dog now. It was hard keeping a straight face after that. There was no second date. There's this guy who was smart, educated and very ambitious. We went out together few times and it was going fine until he started criticizing me for the time I spend with my friends, and every time I wanted to go and see them, he acts as depressed and needs to talk to me, so I wouldn't see my friends and go see him. That was awful and childish. He was good looking and superficially charming. We got along decently, and he wasn't actively mean or anything, so it took a while for me to realize that he was an awful guy to date. I did notice he wasn't very affectionate. I would buy him drinks and meals and shower him with compliments to make him feel better about his insecurities, but he never complimented me, paid for me, or said/did anything particularly nice. The sex was also a lot of me giving him head and him never reciprocating. After we'd been dating for a few months I was having a rough time and opened up to him about my fears and insecurities, and instead of comforting me, he told me that my insecurities were completely ridiculous and illogical and made me feel guilty for feeling bad. When I confronted him about it, he revealed that he doesn't believe in compliments or in comforting people because it encourages people to be insecure and doesn't fix the problem. It ended when he offered to make us breakfast. I ate a small plate of it and cleaned up everything for him, and he charged me $25 on Venmo. That's when I realized he may have actually been a sociopath. Met a guy abroad. He and his friend, and me and my friend were the only guests from our country. We clicked, had this super romantic cliche summer fling. Met back home. Turns out he legit held the belief that women are less than men because women are not prepared to apply themselves the way men are, and he had never met a woman as intellectual as himself before. Yeah, okay, thanks, but no thanks. It didn't last. Went on one date with a guy, and he was the sweetest. Super nice to the waitress and everything. Went on second date on a rooftop. We saw an overweight, which should not matter, couple kissing while he was dropping her off at the apartment. Dude started yelling obscene things and calling them names. Let's just left him to go apologize to them and never went back. We went out for a few drinks on a few occasions. Actually enjoyed his company on those PG rated dates. One night I ended up at his house and we ended up in bed together. In the middle of the fun times, he gets up and starts cooking some chicken. Not just a few chicken breasts. He spends 4 hours cooking like 10 kilograms of chicken. In the middle of the awkward hours of me in bed and him cooking chicken, he stops by the room and compliments my nipples. Yay, no thanks. He asked me out, which I was really excited about. During texts to set up said date, he asked if I had a Brazilian wax because he thought it was hot. I decided my plans had changed and quickly lost his number. I had a FWB and the first time we had sex was in his car. I keep hearing these low-pitched thuds. It was kinda late at night, so I'm thinking, is that a woodpecker? WTF is a woodpecker doing up so late? Then I realize it's his head hitting the window as he's thrusting. A. The sex was so bad I was more interested in the local birds, and B. I knew he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but that was just comical how stupid he was being. I picked him up in my car because we were going to hang out, and he told me his friend thought I looked like shit, but he thought I was cute. I turned around and took him home and didn't speak to him until years later when he was my server at a restaurant and had no idea who I was, but told me I looked familiar. I was really into one guy that made it clear he was interested in polyamory. So, nothing that made me hate him, just knew it would never work out. I was 13. He asked me out on a day. I decided to experiment by wearing my older sister's clothes, preppy, vs my usual scatterpunk attire. I decided to see what he was all about, so I said sure. He hugged me in the hall at the end of the day, proceeded to grab my ass and make a derogatory comment about me to his buddy as I walked away. I turned and thought I'd delivered a look of complete disgust and contempt. He laughed. When I returned to school in my usual black clothes the next day, he immediately tried to tell me how I should dress. I proceeded to tell him to get in more words. The end of that douchebag. I wish. Later, after high school, my boyfriend's somewhat distant friend turned out to be married to this douchebag. He was physically/mentally abusive. Beat her while she was pregnant with his child. Horrible person. I wish I cold warned her of his character beforehand. He was charming, intelligent, and cute. I knew he had had a crush on me, so I broached the topic of maybe trying to date. He was all for it, but after that I noticed him being rude and dismissive of me. Constant interruptions, talking down to me in my own studies that he wasn't well versed on, loud objectifying comments of not only me but other women. In the end I cut it short after a few weeks, because I got the sense he didn't respect me. This was years ago, and recently one of our mutual friends reached out to me to talk about some of the weirdness of that time. Apparently he would complain about me constantly behind my back, while also voicing insecurities that I was too good for him. I never saw it that way. If he didn't act like that towards me, it could have worked. The fallout out from that also destroyed any chance of a friendship between us after, as he made some cruel and malicious comments to me after I called things off. Cute guy in my English class sophomore year. He's nice to me, flirty, dimples, etc. The more I hung out with him, the more I realized he was nice to me and a dick to everyone else. Rude to the teachers, calling other girls slutty, and being an overall ass of himself. Yeah, I lost interest pretty fast. Started dating in high school. I lived in a very rural area. I lived far enough from school that I wouldn't reach home until dark. My parents rarely picked me up, so I was always asking for rides. Occasionally a guy I liked would offer me a ride home. The ones that drive onto the shoulder or into the grass to hit a small animal or turtle in the road. Those guys became dead to me. I was always honest if they asked why I didn't date them. They killed for fun without thinking twice about it. I knew he liked me, and I was thinking about giving him a chance, but then he posted some weird bullshit about how vaginas are locks and dicks are keys, and a lock that can be opened with any key is broken, but a key that can open any lock is a master key, and that was when I decided we would be better off as just friends.